Hi, I'm Meeka 6, also known as the Moroccan Angel. If this is our first encounter together, I would like to say hi, and I'm happy you're here. If you should find my content spiritually enlightening or informative, I would like to invite you to subscribe to my channel, and please, don't forget to press the like button. I always like to encourage my students to verify the facts. Everything that I teach can be literally verified within the scriptures, what is factually written. So I would like to encourage you today to take out your Bibles and take notes so that afterwards you can actually go through the scriptures and verify what is being taught. There is no personal opinions or biases, personal biases or guesses or nothing like that. It's completely, literally verifiable from the scriptures. So let's begin and let's get this on the table. The topic we're going to be discussing today is, did Jesus defeat death? I'm going to start with the definition of death. Death is defined as the termination of life, the life of the body, the physical life of the body. It is the act of dying. Now I want you to really grasp this. Death is the actual act or the event of dying. When speaking of defeating death, it is the act of overpowering or preventing or thwarting the actual act of dying. In this case, in this particular case, it is the prevention of the experience of dying, the physical dying of the body. According to the Collins English Dictionary, to defeat is to annul. To annul means to make void, to declare invalid. It is to completely cancel it out. Now we have to point out the foundation of this, which is the act of dying or death itself was instituted by what whom many know to be called the God of Israel, but his actual name means the Eternal One. He is the one that instituted death. He's also known as the Creator of death. He is the same God that Jesus worshipped in the Christian religion. Now the Eternal One instituted death upon all men, men being defined as all of those who came from the seed of Adam, the human. Now this judgment was placed upon the physical body. It was the destruction of the physical body. We can literally see this through the process of aging, from the womb to one's old age and everything in between. Now this judgment was placed due to sin or disobedience. It must be clear that the Eternal One is not subject to death. He is the one who instituted death. He has not and he will not ever experience death. No part of him has had an event of dying. He is life. His name means Eternal One. Eternal means his life will never be interrupted or disrupted by death. He is life. Within the book of Exodus, in the original Testament, we see that death is personified and it does the bidding of the Eternal One. This being goes about ending the lives of those whom the Eternal One deems. Now the Eternal One declared that he created everything. This includes this being death and this process of death, personified being of death, who is very much subject to the Eternal One. Now, if an individual is overcome by something, that immediately implicates that they are overpowered. In this case, their physical body has been overpowered by this being called death, overpowered by the spirit of death. They have been made subject to the dominion of death, and thereby having the event of dying or experiencing the act of dying. Their life being taken from them, even if for a moment they are experiencing the act, the event of dying, the dying of the physical body. Now, I want this to be very clear that death is the event of dying, the ending of the physical life. It is specifically the experience. So the question that we're focusing on is, did Jesus defeat death? Did he experience the act or event of dying, the dying of his physical body? Did he annul this experience? Did he do away with it altogether? Well, we know that to annul means to bring to an end, to cancel it out. The Christian religion teaches us that Jesus paid the price for the sins of those who believe in him. And what was the price? Death. The death of his physical body, to experience or have the event of dying. Jesus died a physical death on the cross. His physical body died. In the Christian book of Romans, chapter 6, verse 23, it states that the punishment for sin is death, the death of the body. And it is very clear and plain that Jesus physically died, that his body, that life, the life that was in his body, he died physically. He did not spiritually die, as a lot of individuals will attempt to tell you, that it's a spiritual death. No, this punishment is physical, the physical death of the body. And the scriptures state that Jesus gave up the ghost on the cross. It didn't say he extinguished it. He gave it up, meaning he physically died and his spirit left his body. The spirit does not die. And the reason that the spirit of the human does not die is because that spirit came from the Eternal One. And no part of the Eternal One experiences death. It does not go through the event of dying like the physical body does. So Jesus, his physical body died. His body experienced dying, or it went through the event of dying. The judgment that the Eternal One placed upon all men, the seed or semen of Adam. So in that moment, Jesus was overcome or overpowered by the spirit of death, in the sense that he actually died. Death actually ended his life, his physical life, meaning he did not defeat death. At that moment, death defeated him, defeated in taking or ending his life. Literally, he died. Now the Christian will say, well, Jesus rose again, and this is how he defeated death. And so, how do we explain Lazarus? or CPR. People who die and unexplainably come back to life. How do we explain that? Does that mean they defeated death? No. But there are two things that we need to address. To defeat death, as we previously spoke of, is to annul it, meaning to prevent the experience of it. Jesus experienced death. He experienced the death of the body. Now, the way this generally works is if someone says, I'm going to take the punishment for you, normally, you won't have to experience it because they've taken the punishment or the blame or the responsibility for you. Yeah, I mean, can you imagine going to court and the judge pronounces, hey, this guy can take your punishment. He'll take the blame. He'll do the time for your crime. 3 years in prison. And you go walking out of the court, and as soon as you get outside the court, they slap the cuffs on you and say, you're going in, buddy. And you say, but this guy, the judge just said he took my punishment. And you're saying, what's going on? So, if the judgment for sin is death, the punishment for sin is death, the physical death of the body, which we clearly see within the scriptures because Jesus didn't spiritually die on the cross. He physically died, and that was the punishment. He physically died. And the punishment for sin, which is death, physical death of the body. So, if he in fact defeated death, even after being resurrected, the Christian teaching is that he took on your punishment for sin, which according to the scriptures is the death of the body. So in that way, you will not have to experience the punishment. You will not have to taste death or experience death. You will not have the event of dying. So if in fact Jesus defeated death, that means it's annulled. The act of dying, the dying of the physical body, is supposed to be annulled, canceled. You will not have to taste death or experience death. But we know that that's not true. This is a heavy reality check. Because you have right here in the scriptures where they're saying that, in the New Testament scriptures, the Christian book, that Jesus defeated death, death being the act of dying. So we know, for one, he did not defeat death in that sense because he still experienced the act of dying. And the second thing is, if he defeated death in the actual literal sense of the word, to defeat, meaning to annul or overcome it, in the sense of declaring it void, not having to experience the act of dying, we clearly see that that's not true, that the Christian and those who believe in Jesus are still experiencing death. They're still dying. Why? Did Jesus defeat death?